Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are on page 159 and we are moving into division. So our objective today is, today I will use the area model to divide, period. Okay. So today I will use the area model to divide. Now in 4th grade, you actually did this as well. You used the area model to divide. Now when you did this in 4th grade, your area model was actually set up differently. If you notice, our area model here is set up vertically, so top to bottom. Yours was set up horizontally. It's going to be the same idea though. Okay, we're going to have the same idea of how we're going to attack this. Okay, so let's look at our vocabulary. Our first words are our basic division words. So we have dividend, divisor, and quotient. The dividend is what's being divided. The divisor is what you're dividing it by, and your quotient is your answer. Now, I always think of this little trick when it's set up this way. I always think in and out is what it's all about, because we all love in and out. So whenever I see a problem set up like this, I write in and out, because that tells me when I want to set it up using our standard division, the dividend goes inside and the divisor goes outside. Because you're also going to be setting it up like this. So this way we don't get confused which one goes inside and which one goes outside. Sometimes people think, oh, it's just the bigger one goes in and the smaller one goes out. That's not always going to be the case now that you're getting older and you're going to be dividing with decimals at some point. So use the strategy instead in and out to set it up. Okay, here is the area model. Here is where they've added the partial quotients to get the quotient. Here is it using more of a standard form. And then here it talks about what a partial quotient is. So partial quotient is part of a final quotient that represents a partial value of the final quotient. As each value is added to the quotient, it becomes more precise. So these are our partial quotients on the side. Partial just means part of the quotient, so part of the answer. And then what you do is you add them up to get your actual quotient or answer. Okay, the steps are really long, friends, really long. They're good, but they're really long. So our first one, we're going to draw a rectangle for the area model. And then it says we're going to write the divisor as the length on top of the rectangle. Okay, then it says we're going to estimate what number can be multiplied by the divisor without going over the value of the dividend. Whew, it's even hard just to read. What I'm going to add right here, and I want you to add, is this is where we're going to set up our standard division. So we're going to set up our division problem right there. So we're going to set up. And maybe I can draw it again more clear. So I'm going to set up my division right after I start my area model. And I'll explain why, because these steps are a little bit tricky to follow. And then we're going to write the partial quotient on the width. So that would be right here, our partial quotient. And then we're going to multiply. We're going to be multiplying. So we're going to multiply multiply the divisor and the partial quotient and keep track of the answer. So that's what we're multiplying right here. Okay, and then we're going to subtract the answer. So that's right here. And then we're going to keep repeating the steps. And then at the very end, we're going to add all of our partial quotients. So again, these are really hard. I don't think you're ever going to be able to memorize them exactly. So instead, what I want you to do is just focus on the idea of it. Okay, so I'm going to get started, and I'm going to follow the steps really closely, except right here, I'm going to make sure I set it up in standard form as well. Okay, so here's my first one, and it says, solve 2,248 divided by 4. Okay, so my first step says draw a rectangle for the area model. My second step, write the divisor on top. Okay, so to think of which is my divisor, I'm going to use my in and out strategy, and I'm also going to set up my problem over here because that's going to help me think about which one's my in and out. So my out one is my divisor. I always think dividend is inside. So the dividend is inside, and then this would be my divisor outside. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point is a little bit different how they're going to do it in SWON. I want to ask myself, how many times can 4 go into 2? Can it go in at all? No, not at all. How many times can 4 go into 22? 4 can go into 22 5 times. And I'm going to put that right there. Okay, but it's not going to be a 5, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually going to be a 500 because right here is the hundreds place value. It's the hundreds place value also because I have these 2 digits after it. So it's going to be 500. Okay, ready? So I have my first one. Inside needs to go the product. So what is 4 times 5? 4 times 5 is 20. And then how many extra zeros do I add? 2. So my answer is so far is 2,000. Okay, ready? So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to bring over the 2,000 and I'm going to subtract it. So I get 8 take away 0 is 8, 4 take away 0 is 4, 2 take away 0 is 2, and nothing. Okay, so here's my first partial product. That's my first partial product. Okay, so we're slowly like chipping away at our dividend. Okay, now I'm going to say, how many times does 4 fit into 2? It doesn't, right? Not at all. What about 24? How many times does 4 fit into 24? Well, 4 fits into 24 6 times. But it's not going to be 6 because this is in the tens place, or you can remember there's 1 digit after, which means it's actually going to be 6D because I have this extra digit. Just like up here I had 1, 2, so those are my 2 zeros. Here I have 1, so it's going to be 60. Okay, so my next partial product was 60. Let's fill in our answer here. 4 times 60 is what? Well, 4 times 6 is 24. And how many zeros should I add? None here, 1 here. So I get 240. Okay, so let's subtract 8, 0, 0. Okay, how many times can 4 fit into 8? 4 can fit into 8 twice, and it's really going to be twice because this is in my 1, so I'm not going to add any zeros. Plus there's no digits after here, so it's just 2. So what's 4 times 2? 4 times 2 is 8, and when I go to subtract, I get 0. Okay, so what I have now is I have a partial product, a partial quotient, and a partial quotient. So if I add my partial quotients, 500 plus 60 plus 2, I should get 0 plus 0 plus 2 is 2, 0 plus 6 is 6, and 5 is 562. That is my answer. That is my quotient, friends, 562. Now, if I wanted to see if I didn't make any errors, what I should notice is all of these numbers should also add up to this. So I'm just going to show you this. I'm not going to expect you to do this, but I want to show you how this works. So if I add up these, I get 8, 4, 2, 2. And look what my original problem was. So these digits should line up to be this. And these are my partial quotients, which give me my full quotient, okay, or my final quotient. So my answer is 562. Okay, I know there's a lot of steps there, friends. I know. I promise you, as you continue to do this, you'll get faster at it. Okay, so I'm going to do my next one. You want to watch one more time, and hopefully it'll start to make more sense as you watch it. Okay, here's my next one. And I'm going to remember that's my in and out. It's going to help me. So my first step says to draw my rectangle and to put my divisor on top. Okay, and I'm going to set up my standard form over here. And I know my divisor is this one because the dividend in is inside. Okay, so now I'm ready to start. So I ask myself, can 5 fit into 4? No. Can 5 fit into 49? Yes. How many times? Well, 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 10 is 50, so it must be 9. Okay, but is it going to be 9? No, because there's these 2 extra digits out here, so it's going to be 900. Okay, so let's multiply those. 5 times 9 is 45, and add 2 zeros is 4,500. Okay, so what am I getting? I'm going to bring that over and subtract, and I get 0, 6, 4. Okay, so I have a first partial quotient. Okay, I'm going to keep going now. How many times can 5 fit into 4? Not at all. What about 46? Well, 5 times 8 is 40, 5 times 9 is 45, and 5 times 10 is 50. So it's going to be 9 again. But it's not going to be 9, it's going to be 9D, because there's 1 digit after this. Okay, so what do we have here? We have 5 times 9 is 45, and we're going to add no zeros, 1 0, just 1. Okay, so we have a partial quotient of 90. Let's subtract. Now we have 10. Okay, so we're going to keep going. 5 can fit into 1, not at all. 5 can fit into 10 twice. And it's just going to be a 2 because there's no digits after here. So 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, so again, friends, I'm not going to make you do this, but if I add up all these inside, I'll show you how quick this is. I should get this number, which I did. Okay, but what we're really concerned about adding up is our partial quotients. That's what we want to add. So 900 plus 90 plus 2 equals 992 is our answer. That is our quotient. So our answer is equals 992. Okay, friends, let's try some of these. Now, you're going to want to make sure you're writing very carefully because you're really going to want to have these examples for when you have to do problems on your own. Okay, so our first problem is 6,840 divided by 8. Okay, so step 1 says you're going to draw a rectangle. And step 2 says you're going to put your divisor on top, which is an 8. Okay, I added the step that we're also going to set it up in our standard form. So 8 is our divisor and 6,840 is our dividend. Okay, so now we're ready to get started. So we ask ourselves, can 8 fit into 6? Nope. Can 8 fit into 68? Yes. How many times? Well, 8 times 8 is 64, so I know it's 8. How many zeros? 1, 2. Okay, so what do we have here? We have 8 times 8 is 64, and add 2 zeros. Okay, so 8 times 800 is 6,400. So let's subtract that, and we get 0, 4, 4. And we have our first partial quotient, our first part of our quotient or part of our answer. Okay, so we're going to keep going. 8 can fit into 4, not at all. 8 can fit into 44 how many times? Well, 8 times 5 is 40, and 8 times 6 is 48. So it has to be 5 because 6 is too big. So it's 5, but there's one extra spot, so it's 50. Okay, so 8 times 5 is 40, and we're going to add 1 0, so it's 400. So we have a second partial quotient. Okay, let's subtract, and we get 0 and 4. Okay, so we're going to keep going. 8 can fit into 4 how many times? None. 8 can fit into 40 how many times? 5 times. And it's just 5 because there's nothing after. Okay, so 8 times 5 is 40. And we are left with 0. Okay, so I'm not going to make you do it, but if we added these, we would get this. That's all we did, is we broke this up into chunks. What we want to add is our partial quotients to get our full quotient. So we have 800 plus 50 plus 5. So we have 5, 5, and 8. That is our quotient. That's our final answer. Okay, let's do another one. And if yours doesn't look like mine, you should pause your video to get it to match mine, so you have a really good example for when you're working on your own. Okay, let's look at our next one. Okay, so step 1 says draw your box, and step 2 says put your divisor on top. And then I added set up your standard form problem. Okay, and we are set. And the way I knew to set it up correctly is I said this one goes in and this one goes out. In and out is what it's about. Okay, ready? 4 can go into 2? No. 4 can go into 24? Oh, 6 times. 6 times perfectly. But it's not going to be a 6, it's going to be a 600 because we have 1, 2 digits after. Okay, so what do we get in here? 4 times 6 is 24, and we're going to add just 2 zeros. Okay, so let's subtract. We get 8, 4, 0, 0. So we just get 48. Okay, 4 can fit into 4 one time. But it's not going to be a 1, it's really going to be a 10 because there's one spot after, so it's going to be a 10. So 4 times 10 is 40. So let's subtract that partial quotient, and we're left with 8. Okay, 4 can fit into 8 how many times? 2 times. And it's just 2 because there's nothing after here. So 4 times 2 is 8, and when I subtract, I get 0. Okay, so here's our partial quotients. So we have to add our partial quotients to get our final quotient. 600 plus 10 plus 2, and we get 216. So 612 is our quotient. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, please make sure you have good examples of this, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.